Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all enjoying this evening's presentations. Right now, I would like to ask a favor of you. I want you to imagine that your life at this moment is exactly the way you would like it to be. You live in a wonderful home. Your family and friends are all happy. You're financially secure. You have a fulfilling career. Hopefully, you didn't have to try very hard to create this image. Now, how would you feel if something were to happen that would suddenly change this perfect image you had of your life? Chances are you'd feel terribly uncomfortable with anything that would change this perfect picture. But it is what you do next, your reaction, that I'm interested in discussing here today. We humans don't naturally embrace change in our lives. We find it stressful, confusing, and immensely uncomfortable. These feelings often result in our inability to deal with change properly and deal with the change that has been thrust upon us. But what if we could train ourselves, convince ourselves to react to change in such a way that it could affect our lives in a positive manner? Considering how many times we'll be forced to accept change, sudden change that has been thrust upon us, having the skills to reduce the stress and embrace said change can only make us happier. So why do we fear change? Change has always been scary for humans as it represents an unknown circumstance that may be dangerous. This fear of the unknown still applies to people today as no one knows exactly what kind of situation they're going to be in after the change occurs. In general, they're afraid of being worse off than they already are. Change takes people outside their comfort zone, and we naturally don't like that. It lacks a security and familiarity that makes us fear the unknown. If we're happy where we are, we want to stay there. So unfortunately for us, though, even if we don't actively search for change, change will come to us, guaranteed. Fear of change is not only felt on an individual level. We can see it play out time and time again, whether it be small groups, large organizations, or even nations. There are many examples of cultures and countries not readily accepting change into their own nations, and some of these examples are right here in Europe. One of these occurred in the placement and enforcement of the French law on secularity and conspicuous religious symbols in schools that bans Muslim, Jewish, and Sikh symbols, as well as symbols and artifacts from many other religions. These laws were put in place in an attempt to force French culture instead of allowing the possibility of erosion occurring. The French feel it is necessary to prevent change so that they can preserve their own culture from invasion. Another example of where such laws have been instituted is in the minaret ban in Switzerland. This was put in place to preserve the idea of what a traditional Swiss culture is. There are many examples that aren't just European examples, too. There are many from Middle Eastern nations being fearful of cultural erosion taking place throughout pop culture. In such nations, these are probably the most terrifying images they can imagine. The people of these examples fear that their own cultures could be in some way altered by the introduction of people with new ideas and new histories. These laws are put in place and these measures are taken because they feel it is necessary. They are in a comfort zone. The people are happy where they are. They don't want to leave. They don't want to risk being worse off than they already are. So if places like Switzerland and France are trying so hard to prevent change, is it really that bad? Can change be positive? Change is, in reality, much better than we make it out to be. Change can advance our situation from where it currently is, give us new experiences and new ideas that improve our lives even further. Change has the ability to challenge our existing ideologies and often replaces them with new and better ones. As we go through such modifications in our lives, we alter our perception of the world and realize that this new change may not be so bad after all. Our knowledge increases overall with these new experiences, and these changes can help result in something better. Most important aspect, however, change promotes open-mindedness. As our image of the world becomes clearer, we can learn to more readily accept other ideas and other cultures. These positive aspects, again, don't just relate to individuals, but also to the groups, organizations, and nations that have all accepted the change. Now, hypothetically, if places such as the examples I mentioned earlier would accept the change and could embrace it, they might experience the positive aspects of change in their own way. The people of these nations or groups would learn to recognize more about other cultures and languages and be able to gain new ideas, formulate their own ideas, and gain new experiences. There could be social and economic improvements as people from various cultures are fully accepted into the society. The people may become more open-minded, and they could learn from the other cultures. These places do not have to lose their culture, but rather can expand upon it while they share ideas with others. They can change for the better. So, okay, we can see how change can benefit us on a global scale. But what about us personally? How can we as individuals benefit from the stressful and frightening changes in our lives? This topic is very personal to me. My whole life has been about change. Like many of you here tonight, I have moved several times in my life and lived in many countries. Of course, every time my family and I move, we are confronted with change that is often sudden and drastic. This can be stressful. This can be scary. We leave behind family and friends and familiar places and are confronted with new cultures, new languages, and new people. I believe that whether or not I accept these changes positively is whether I react to them positively. By embracing the change instead of resisting it, by believing that it can result in something positive instead of the opposite, by actively searching for the silver linings that come from all experiences, I believe that we can become more adaptable and stronger. Remember the phrase, it builds character? We are told this every time we are confronting something new, something difficult and unpleasant. Well, this is what we're facing. When we face big changes in our lives, this is what it does. It develops our character. So, as we can see, change can be positive and it can have a positive aspect on our lives. But how can we ensure that this is the case? What can we do to reduce the fear associated with said change? The first thing we have to accept in order to move with the change is that change is going to happen whether we want it to or not. I cannot stress this enough. We do not live in bubbles. The world will impose change upon you. The great thing about it is that if we can prepare ourselves for the change to happen, if we know that it is going to happen, we can prepare for bigger ones. This is already a tremendous step in reducing the stress that is associated with the change. The next step is to learn to recognize change when it is going to come. Change can occur slowly, and sometimes we deny that it is going to happen until it has already overtaken us. When preparing for change, we have to look for and react to the small changes to prepare for the big ones ahead. If we can learn to recognize them, and when they're going to happen, we will be much better off. Another great strategy for dealing with change: concentrate on what you want to get out of it. What good can come of change? We have to be able to read a situation in such a way that we can see any positive aspects of changing. If we can see these positive aspects, we can help make sure they happen. However, if they're not happening and change is not going your way, get ready to adapt and change again, to move away from the negative results. Continuing to make changes is how we evolve, how we improve. We can't get better if we don't change. Now for the most important step. Make change an exciting adventure. Make it something you expect to happen, something you look forward to. This is a chance to make your life better even if it was great to begin with. Concentrate on the good things that can come of change and make it a great experience. Let me conclude by telling you something you already know. Change is happening. The world is changing faster than ever, and we will all be affected by it. But if we can learn to effectively handle this change and change to our own advantage, we can not only improve ourselves and our lives, but also the world we live in. I see this as a great opportunity. Do you? Thank you.